Bhunaji, if you don't mind.
No, not at all.
Yeah, shall we chant to the invocation?
Om Sahana Bhavatu Sahanau Bhunaktu Sahaviryam Karavavahai Tejasvinavadhitamastu Ma Vidvishavahai. Om Shantis Shantis Shantihi. Hari Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Hari Om.
Excellent. Thank you. Thank you very much, Bhunaji. So we'll continue our discussion of Atmabodha. So we are getting into a new topic today. Last week we talked about 2 types of negation. But before that, the purpose of Atmabodha is to get established in my own true identity. Every other knowledge in the world is useless or not fully useful. I would like to use that word only, because every other knowledge, we cannot utilize it to the fullest extent if we fail to understand myself. Correct? If we do not understand myself properly, the way I relate with everybody else is going to be different. The way I feel is going to be different. The way I perceive is going to be different. The way I act or react is going to be different. What is perceived as sorrow is going to be different. What is perceived as happiness is going to be different. So it is extremely important for each one of us to understand and identify with our own true self. And that is the goal of this Atmabodha. Atma means self. Bodha means knowledge. So how do I establish myself in my own true nature? And we have seen so far that what is the problem? The problem is I'm not understanding myself properly, or I'm not seeing myself properly. I'm taking myself as something other than myself. And as a result, my perceptions are different. My feeling is different. My response is different. Even my thinking is different. So the goal is to understand myself. And if ignorance is the problem, underline that. If ignorance is the problem, the only solution is knowledge. So that's what this book is giving. But again, we talked about this a lot. When you want to use a means of knowledge, you have to use the appropriate means of knowledge to get that knowledge. For example, if I want to see something, I have to employ my eyes. If I want to hear something, I have to use my ear. Apart from using the correct means of knowledge, I need to make sure that the sufficient conditions are met for that instrument to work. For example, if there is darkness, even if I open my eyes, I cannot see it. So what is the appropriate conditions for me to gain this knowledge, and what is the means of knowledge? We said here the means of knowledge is scriptures or Veda, and that is why we call Veda as a pramana, because if you don't understand this, it is very difficult to understand Vedanta. So Vedanta is a pramana. Prama means knowledge. Pramana means pramakaranam. Just like your eyes help you to see, the Vedanta helps you to see yourself. That which helps, that means of knowledge, which helps you to see yourself is Vedanta. And Atmabodha is a text that gives that knowledge. But what is the sufficient condition for that knowledge or that perception to take place is you need to have a stable mind and you need to have a pure mind. So every sadhanas described in our scriptures is only an indirect means. Every sadhana, whether it is hatha yoga, pranayama, meditation, everything is only an indirect means for me to gain that precondition, which is a pure mind and a stable mind. When I have a pure mind and a stable mind, I can use this means of knowledge, which is Vedanta, as a pramana. And why I use Vedanta as a pramana? I want to see myself properly. When I say see, it is figuratively. I wanted to know myself properly. And the tool I use means the means of knowledge is Vedanta. And the tool I use is to support in that knowledge process is mind. And as you know, the human mind is the medium through which all the knowledge takes place. Whether it is perception, whether it is inference, and whether it is scriptures. Whatever is your means of knowledge, the knowledge takes place in human mind. So the human mind is extremely important for gaining that knowledge. And that mind has to be pure and stable. When the mind is pure and stable, the Vedanta can be used as a pramana. And this follows 3 steps. Anybody remembering that 3 steps? So the first thing is you need to have that adhikaratvam or eligibility to gain this knowledge. And that eligibility can be achieved by performing karma yoga and upasana yoga. Karma yoga is going to give me a stable mind and a pure mind, mala nivritti, and upasana yoga is going to give me a stable mind. And when I practice karma yoga and upasana yoga, the result of that is something called antakarana shuddhi, the purification of the inner instrument, which gives me the necessary qualification to seek knowledge. And the qualifications for seek knowledge is 4, right? Viveka, Vairagya, Shatka Sampatti, and Mumukshutvam. These are the 4 qualities when you practice karma yoga and upasana yoga, you get. Remember, we covered all these topics earlier. So now, once you have this eligibility, what you need to do is you need to start using this teaching. How do you use this? How do you use this teaching? Through a 3-step process. And what is that 3-step process? Anybody?
Shravana, Manana, Nidithyasana.
Exactly. Shravana, Manana, Nidithyasana. And let's go one by one and understand. Sorry, I'm taking a little bit more time because if you know this, you can go to Upanishad very easily, right? So we started from the beginning, where we stand. We don't know ourselves. As a result, we get into problems. And what is the means for getting out of that problem? Knowing myself properly. So for knowing myself properly, is it better to start with the knowledge first? No. You need to use the appropriate means of knowledge. You need to satisfy all the preconditions. And for that, you need to do karma yoga and you need to do upasana yoga. So once you do, you get this pure mind, stable mind, and that pure mind and stable mind naturally will have the viveka, vairagya, shatka sampatti, and mumukshutvam. And that is the adhikaratam. Once you have that, you can do the shravana, manana, nidithyasana. Just make sure that the sequence is very clear. If you know this is very simple. Every book you read, it will be only an elaboration of one of these topics. That's it. So now, what is shravana?
Listening to the scriptures.
Yes, it is literally listening to the scripture, but practically learning the scripture from a competent master for a sufficient period of time. That is the definition used by Shankara himself. So learning the scripture from a competent master for a sufficient period of time, because the scriptures can be easily misinterpreted. So that is very important. Just by self-reading, sometimes it is going to be very difficult because you need to employ certain teaching methodology, which we saw last week, right? Drigdrishya Viveka, Shariratraya, Panchakosha, all these teaching methodologies has to be used and explained by a master so that we understand that properly. So that is Shravana. And what is Mananam?
Reflection.
Inculcate the knowledge.
Correct. Connect the dots, make sure that the doubts are cleared, right? Because if the doubts, what is doubt? Unassimilated thoughts, right? You cannot connect these two pieces together. That is a doubt. And that has to be reflected with the help of logic and common sense. That's very important. Nobody in Vedanta said you cannot use logic. You have to use logic. So Manana, you will try to connect the dots. You will make sure that there is logic. As I always say, there could be something could be above the logic or beyond the logic, but cannot be against the logic. That is the rule. Because there are certain things you talk could be beyond the logic. For example, the twin paradox you hear in modern physics. In the first hearing, is that beyond logic? When you read that first time, right? It is beyond logic. Absolutely, it is beyond logic. What is that movie? I forgot the name of that movie. There was a science fiction movie. Interstellar or Gravity? I forgot that. There is a movie like the father goes to the space. When he comes back,
What was it?
that's a famous movie.
Remember that?
It's fine, yeah. But in that movie, when the father comes back, the father is very young. But the daughter is almost about to leave the planet. That's the difference. That is, that if you really look at that, that is beyond logic. But if you understand, connect the dots, definitely you understand that it is not against logic. So this is very important. So Mananam, and finally, Nidithyasanam. So we spent some time last week, and that's exactly what we are going to see from 32 to 40. Verse 32 to 40 is Nidithyasana. So what is Nidithyasana?
Yes, internalizing.
Yeah, because the habitual thinking, and we call it as Viparita Bhavana. Habitual thinking. Even though you know that it is the earth that moves, but when you see the sunset, what is my first thinking?
Yeah.
Figuratively, we use the language also, right? Why did you go to beach?
Sunset.
To see the sunset.
Exactly, right? That is Viparita Bhavana. When you see the earth,
Rajesh, you were mentioning Interstellar, I think.
Interstellar, exactly. That is the movie. Yeah, that's what I thought too. Interstellar. Yes, exactly. That is the movie. So what I'm saying is that when you look at the earth, what is your feeling? Is it flat? You know that it is not flat. You know that the earth is spinning. But what is the habitual understanding? When you see a crystal in front of a blue cloth, you know that it's a pure crystal, but when you see that, immediate thinking, what is going to come? It's a blue crystal. The blueness is an part of the crystal. Crystal is blue, not the crystal has blue. So even though theoretically you know that Aham Brahmasmi, I am Atman, I am consciousness, but practically speaking, that's not the first thought that comes to my mind. In psychology, they call it as automatic thoughts, the habitual thought. So how do you overcome that? A mere understanding of the concept will not remove that habitual thinking. If you extend the story we discussed last week, what was that story? The lion cub story, the story that Vivekananda loved. And I put a video also, right? I hope you got a chance to watch that. It's a beautiful video. So in that story, even after the lion understanding that it is a lion, it's not a sheep, the next morning when you get up, because of the habits of the last decades, it feels that it's a sheep. So you need to reiterate and internalize this feeling that I'm a lion. So even though you technically know that you are Atma, you heard that through Shravanam, and through Mananam, you logically concluded, yes, I am Drik, I am not Drishya. I am the Athishtana, I am not Maya. All those things we discussed last week. It is clear to me, logically convincing to me. It is above logic, I agree, but it is not against logic. That's for sure. And that's why one of the greatest scientists of the world, Erwin Schrödinger himself, appreciated this logic. So this logic is good. I heard this through Shravana, but I haven't internalized it. So I need to do some practices. A special kind of meditation I need to employ or practice. And that practice is known as Nidithyasanam. This is what is Nidithyasanam. And this Nidithyasanam, there are two goals. One is negate the Jivatva and establish in Brahmatva. Negate the Jivatva and establish in Brahmatva. That is the goal of the Nidithyasanam. And what exactly in Nidithyasanam? You are repeatedly thinking. You are repeatedly trying to get a small glimpse or experience. For what? To negate this habitual thinking. To negate this habitual thinking that I am the body. The pain I experience is my pain rather than a pain in my mind. The old age I experience is, or the pain, the old age I experience, or the state of my body is not my state, but it is a state of the body I have. There is a difference, right? My car, it got a scratch. Who got the scratch? My car got the scratch. That is true. But I didn't get the scratch. So who am I? I am the consciousness that illuminates all the thoughts that comes to my mind. When you establish that, it proves something, because what I'm seeing is different from me. What I'm seeing is different from me. So I see a thought, and that thought could be painful, or that thought could be an elate, means a happy thought. But the point is that I'm seeing that thought. And when I see that thought, what happens? I just get identified with that thought. I take that thought as myself. And if that thought is happy, I am happy. If that thought is sad, I am sad. So this process, the Nidithyasanam, is going to develop that Sakshi Bhava, the attitude of a witness. You're stepping back and you're trying to differentiate between who are you and what you're seeing. You may have a sad thought. You may have a happy thought. You may have a jealous thought, but you are separate from that thought. And this body is a temporary instrument given to me to transact in this world at this time. So conditioned by time and space. And that, it's like the phone. When the, I remember only the Apple version. So when the iPhone 10 came in, you all got that. After a couple of years, what happened? You changed that to a new phone. Who changed? The instrument changed. But the person who is talking through that phone, he remains the same. So the Atma remains the same, but I may take different instruments at different place at different time. And last week I gave a simple example to relate with this, which was the dream body and the dream mind. Remember, when you are in that dream space and dream time, you are transacting with the dream world through the dream body and the dream mind. When you were in that dream, what was your identity? Did you have any doubt that I was not the dream body?
No.
Exactly. And when you woke up, you might have cried in the dream. But when you woke up, what did you realize?
It's just a dream.
Yeah. But was that dream a reality? Yes. If
When
you
I
say
was
that that is an
dreaming, then.
illusion, that is wrong. But when you were in that dream space and dream time, that dream had an existence.
Yeah.
Isn't it?
Yeah.
When you were in that dream space, that the scope of that dream is dream space and dream time. If you had a happy incident, if you're identified with the dream body and dream space, dream mind, you would be happy. Nobody can negate that experience. That's why you cried, or some people laugh, some people hit. All those things happens, right, in dream. So like that. So this is like a dream. Don't think that it is a dream. It is like a dream. Like a dream means in this place and time, in this space and time, you have a relative reality. You have an existence, a temporary existence. You live in this time and space relatively. And you transact with this world through your body and the mind. Once you get out of this world, this body and the mind means this body won't be there, but you continue to exist. So this is the theme. And Nidithyasana is going to help you to get into that theme. So these masters are brilliant. Teachers like Shankaracharya is brilliant. So there is a technique to understand which verses are referring Nidithyasana. So the Atma, the theme of the textbook Atmabodha is what? Atma. No doubt, right? Atma is the theme of Atmabodha. So this Atma, you see in Atmabodha, sometimes it is referred with third person. That Atma. Sometimes you talk about second person. You are saying that means third person means you are talking to somebody about Atma. So the teacher is talking to students about Atma. So that is a third person usage. Second thing is means you talk about Atma as Ishvara, etc. So that is a second person. But if it is a Nidithyasanam, you will see that the grammar will be first person. So if the verse is referring to Nidithyasana, you could clearly see the grammar used in that verse would be a first person. That's the beauty of Nidithyasana. Now, a little bit more technicality about Nidithyasana. I think Gina and I was talking, maybe next week or one after next session, we can do 15 minutes of Nidithyasana. So you'll get a glimpse. What is Nidithyasana? But there is a small difference, couple of things. One is there is a difference between conventional meditation and Nidithyasana. We explained this in the chapter 8 also. What is the difference between conventional meditation and Nidithyasana? What is the purpose of the conventional meditation? What you are trying to do? What is the goal? That is where the difference is.
Trying to focus your mind?
Correct. You are trying to gain control over your mind. You are trying to get stability of the mind. You are trying to make the mind calm. Whereas in Nidithyasana, this state is a prerequisite. So any Nidithyasana practice you do should be preceded by a conventional meditation. Make sense? Right? So first you start with a conventional meditation. So you do a kind of like a body scan or a progressive muscle relaxation or chanting of the mantra Om. Om can be used for both, but you use a mantra and you bring your mind to a certain level so that you can practice this Nidithyasana. Imagine the case of that lion cub. When the lion cub went to the, water source, if the lion cub was so upset, and with that upset mindset, if it looks into the water, do you think that it will recognize something? In the case of 10th man story, the 10th man is trying to find out the 10th man, but he is so upset. He's crying and he's so in a panic attack mode. Do you think that he can reflect? No. So that's why the Nidithyasana practice should be preceded by a conventional meditation practice. And once the meditation is going to bring your mind to a relatively quieter state, because otherwise what is going to happen? The other noises in the mind is going to sink this process at all. So you don't want to do that. So you do the conventional meditation, and with that conventional meditation, what you try to do? You try to practice Nidithyasana. This is what it is. And how do you practice Nidithyasana? That is exactly what we are going to see in these verses. Sorry for that long introduction, but this is absolute must. Any questions? Okay, so if there is no questions, we can continue. So the next topic is maybe Pyasana. So from verse 32 to 39, that is what? The Nidithyasana. So we will see the 32. Anu, could you please chant?
Yes, Rajesh. Dehanyatvan me janma jara karshalayadayah shabdadi vishayai sangaha nirindriyatayanacha.
First, this is very now, but before that, let me tell you one thing. Let me share that and show you. Look at this. What is the pronoun used here? Name janmaha. Me in Sanskrit means what? Which person it is?
First person I.
Yeah, first person. So that clearly shows that the Atma is referred using the first person pronoun. That is meant for Nidithyasana. That's a simple trick. So now let's see one by one, right? So the first thing is, this is Nidithyasanam, and as I said, like the purpose of this verse is to reaffirm who am I, because even though on the surface, on the conscious mind, I know who am I, but in my subconscious, what happens? This habitual thinking is there. So what I want to do is, through this Nidithyasanam, I wanted to make sure that this habitual thinking is negated. So what happens? Typically, even if you are clear on the conscious mind, if that is not the understanding, if the subconscious is not aligned, when you face a situation, the response of that situation sometimes is measured, or sometimes it is determined by what is in the unconscious or subconscious. So typically in the Vedanta, there is a formula. It means, I think Swami Paramarthananda brilliantly defined this formula. It is called FIR. Have you heard of that? It's a powerful means for self-observation. It is called FIR. So suppose your reaction, if that is not aligned with this thinking, for example, when I get extremely sad or extremely anxious. Why? Because I think that I am the body or I am the mind, and I put that response. So when that response comes in, one powerful means to observe is using this formula called FIR. F means frequency. How frequently I get this thought. 99% of the time, I react as if I'm a body. I'm too much worried about you need to worry about the body, but you don't need to worry about the body as it is you. You need to worry about the body as it is an instrument. So if that frequency of that negative response is high, you need to look. So frequency is one factor. So that is the F. The second one is the intensity. Sometimes, even though I get the response, the intensity is small. So that is the I. And R means it is the recovery period. So if I get into one particular reaction, how long it is going to last. So the practice of Nidithyasanam, with this technique, you can monitor how effective it is. So that's the first point. And second point is, what do you do? The actual Nidithyasanam. You wanted to make sure that you are sitting in a stable place and trying to contemplate or doing this Nidithyasanam. You are going to reaffirm to yourself that I am not the body, I am not the mind, I am not the thoughts, I am not the senses, but I am Atma. And this verse is going to clearly tell that, because I am that Atma. That is what I'm going to reaffirm to myself. And you could see this in these verses of Atmabodha, which is from verse 32 to 39. If you want to have a little bit more explanation, there is a book, another Prakarna book. And this Prakarna book is called Viveka Chudamani. Have you heard of that book? Nobody heard of Viveka Chudamani?
Yes.
It's a very popular
Yes,
book by
brother.
Shankara.
Yes.
So from
Yes, sir.
Viveka Chudamani, from verse 254 onwards, it is Nidithyasanam. And do you know how many verses Shankaracharya given in the Viveka Chudamani for Nidithyasanam? Here you have only 7 or 8 verses. But in Viveka Chudamani, how many verses he has given? 217 verses. That is from 254 to 470, it is Nidithyasanam. Can you imagine that? That much details are given. So anybody interested, you can take the Vivek Chudamani book and go through these verses. And Bhagavad Gita chapter 6, it covers the conventional meditation and Nidithyasanam. And if you want to go a little bit more deeper, the whole Nidithyasanam is condensed in one Upanishad, in 11 verses. And that Upanishad is known as Mandukya Upanishad. So you can refer verses 32 to 42 in Mandukya Upanishad. So this is the reference if you want really go deep into Nidithyasanam. So this is the Nidithyasanam. And here, what Shankaracharya tells is very interestingly, right? He wants us to reaffirm the fact that I am consciousness. The body, I may have a body, but I am not the body. I may have a body, but I am not the body. I may have a mind, but I am not the mind. I may have senses like ability to see, ability to hear, ability to smell, ability to touch, but I am not that. I am not an Atma. I am not an attribute of the mind. I am not a fluctuation or a chitta vritti. I am totally different. This is what the process of Nidithyasanam. One of the most respected master of our time, Swami Chinmayananda used to say, by heart these verses. By heart these verses 32 to 40. That is, he always say. And chant these verses mentally. It's so important because over a period of time you get it. So he strongly advises to learn these verses from 32 to 39. 32 to 39, it is going to help us. So now let's go to the details of those verses. The first point, the point in this verse, Shankaracharya is negating two things. He clearly tells that I am not the body. Deha anyatvad, anyatvam. Deha anyatvam. So I have a body, but I am not the body. Second point he tells is, I am not the sense, the ability to perception. That is the sense organs, not sense organs, but the ability of the sense organs. So I am not the power of perception. I'm not the power of hearing. I'm not the power of listening. So that is what is negated by in this verse. And the next verse, he negates prana. I'm not prana. I'm not the mind. So this verse, deha anyatvam. So he tells, means what we are doing is, I am not the body, na deha. I am not the body. So difference is, so in that quietude, I am not the body. So I may have a body, but I am not the body. So when I'm not the body, what is going to happen? The properties of the body is not my me. The properties of the body is not me. Because most of us are worried what? I'm worried about my body. Of course, you need to keep your body clean. You need to present your body clean. It's just like cleaning your car. You wanted to have the car looks beautiful. You wanted to make sure that it is fresh. You paint the car, you clean the car, you decorate the car. All that is necessary, but with an understanding that I am not the car. So like that, you need to take care of the body as best as possible. But understand that I am not the body. So typically what happens when people get old, one of the greatest worry people have is, okay, I am old. But the fact is that the moment you think I am old, think about the pronoun, what exactly that I refers to there. I refers to the identity with body. So in your dream, imagine that you got old, extremely old, and you sit and worry, I am old. Think about that. In that dream, if you sit and worry about that, I am old. Who is old there? Let me make this example. You are lying
The
down.
dream body.
Yeah,
Dream
you are lying down right now. Of course, you are 38 or 48 or 50. But in that dream, you dreamt an old age, like 85 or 95. You are very concerned. My body is too old. I cannot do anything. When you are in that dream, is that a real suffering? Right? You're really suffering. Why you are suffering? You think that you are old. But what exactly is old there?
Body and not me.
Dream body, right?
Oh.
The dream body is what is old there. So the only way for you to get out of, if you have your identity with that dream body, there is no way you can get out of the sufferings. If you identify with this physical body here, there is no way for you to get out of the sufferings here. Because let's say that the medical science advances tremendously. Maximum what can you do? Right now your longevity is say 80 years. It may go up to 150 years. That's it. There will be an end. So sometimes you are bound to suffer. Remember in the 8th chapter, we started this discussion. Krishna was telling, imagine you go to Brahmaloka, where one day is one Mahayuga, right? 1000 Mahayuga. 1000 Mahayuga is one day of Brahmaji. It could be very long compared to the time scale we experience here. But even that larger scale will come to an end. Compared to the life of an amoeba, our life is almost infinite. But we know that we are also getting old age and we are suffering. So as long as we identify ourselves with the body, what is going to happen? This suffering is going to be there. I am old. I am old. I am going to die. I am old. So what do you do in this Nidithyasana? So let's think about the practice a little bit. So when you in the Nidithyasana, what you do is you sit quiet, you practice a little bit of meditation, and when you practice that meditation to a sufficient level, what is going to happen? All the thoughts, that is where the Patanjali is saying, Chitta Vritti Nirodha. All the thoughts will come down, come down, come down. There won't be much thought at all. You're in a conscious rest state. So if your body has a problem, right? If the body's problem is there 24/7, at this point of time, what is going to happen? That pain should come. Let's say that you have a problem in your body. You are almost in the old age. But when you do this meditation, that feeling is not coming there. So you need to understand, right? Yes, I have an old body. This body may come to an end, but I am different. Who is the real subject? That subject is different from the body. So that is what this purpose of this meditation. I am sitting here and I am saying that Name Deha, I am not the body. How? I'm looking at that quietude. Is that old age bothering me? Absolutely not, because it is a property of my body. I know that I need to deal with it. I need to accept the fact that I may have to lose this identity. I may have to leave the world. All that is true. But I am not the body. So that is point number one. The properties of the body doesn't belong to me. That is what I'm thinking. So I am different from the body. I am the consciousness that makes myself aware of the presence of this body, and I am different from the body. That means the properties of the body is not me. So what is the typical properties of the body? Here he says, Janma, Jara, Kasya, Laya. So Janma is birth, Jara is old age, or actually the sign of old age, and Karsya means weakness. When you are old age, you feel weak. Yes, you may experience that, but the thing is that you need to understand, yes, there is weakness, but that weakness belongs to body. I am not body. So he tells Janma, Jara, Karsya, Laya. Laya means death. Yes, tomorrow this body may come to an end, but that is not me. The body may come to an end, but I am not coming to an end. So Janma, Jara, Karsya, Layaha, Adi. And he tell, Na me. They are not me. So the entire physical body, I see the entire physical body. I respect that entire physical body, but I develop an understanding. I am not that. That is the powerful teaching of the Vedanta. It helps me to separate myself from that body. Very interestingly, you can refer the search inside yourself. Even in that book, one of the way they are telling us to gain the emotional intelligence is to separate yourself from your body and the mind. Anybody read that book? There is a good meditation in that book. What they are talking us is to they're teaching us is to understand that you are not anger. Instead, I have anger. Anybody read that in this group?
Rajesh, I read it, Rajesh. This is
Okay,
Sashi.
great. So this is where the modern psychology also, or the science also, is coming to us. And we are extending that even further. So I am trying to teach myself to see body as an instrument rather than taking the body as myself. So the Viparita Bhavana is here what? I am seeing my body as myself. And what is the results of Nidithyasanam? I still see the body. I still respect the body. I still take care of the body with an understanding that it is an attribute. It is an object given to me. It's it's a tool given to me. So that is what you're contemplating. Deha anyatvam. So he tells name deha, and he tells janma, jara, kashya, laya are not belonging to me. That is the first part of this verse. Second part of this verse, he tells indriya, shabda, vishayadi sangha. So he tells indriyas, the ability to perceive. So when you hear a particular, when you see a particular sight, you become attached to that. For example, when you see a flower, or when you see a particular house, or when you see a particular car, you get attached to that. So here, again, that object may attract you, but you say that I am not getting attached to that. What happens? The sangha, or the attachment, is a thought which is created by my sense organs when it interacts with the sense objects. So faithfully let it report that thought. For it, you don't have to be shy. Like when you see a good girl, or when you see a tempting object, it's okay to see that. The moment you realize that that is only a thought in me, what is the problem? I just get identified with that thought and act upon that. That is a problem. But if you see that objectively, and if you can use dharma as a means of what to do, what not to do, then any perception, you can see anything, you can be anywhere. So the second thing is that Shankaracharya tells in this Nidithyasanam, I am not the body, I am not the indriyas. So these are the two topics discussed in this verse. So this is very, very interesting. So let's quickly see, because he tells Dehanyatvat name janma. Since I am not the body, I do not have any birth. Since I am not the body, I do not have any old age. Since I am not the body, I do not have any weakness. Since I am not the body, I do not have any death. So now you may ask me, isn't it a fact? Old age is a fact. Is that a myth? No, absolutely. Old age is a fact. Birth is a fact. Growth is a fact. Decay is a fact. Death is a fact. What is subjected to these changes? My body is subjected to change, all these changes. But I am different from that body. That's the only difference. Vedanta is not negating the world at all. Vedanta is just saying that just like an external objects, like a car, you may maintain the car very properly. Some people take care of the car more than their body, right? But understand that it is something you use, that's all. And then he tells that means I have no association, no sangha, right? Shabdadi vishaye sangu. I do not have any association with the worldly objects because I am not the senses. The association with the worldly object, what exactly is associating with a beautiful sight? The first level is my eyes, and I am different from my eyes. I am not the eyes. Of course, I have the eyes. I use that eyes, but I am not the eye. So I do not have any attachment. So the talparya or the theme of this verse is beyond body and sense objects. That is the first verse we saw. So let me share. Anu, if you can chant this once again, because it would be great if you all can by heart this.
Dehanyatvam janma jara karshalayadayah shabdadi vishayai sangaha nirindriyatayana.
So just contemplate upon the meaning. This is not a Nidithyasana, but just to understand, right? Means, Anu, could you chant the first line?
Dehanyatvan me janma.
So he used the first person singular. That is why it is Nidithyasanam. Dehanyatvan. I am not the body. Because of that, I do not have any birth. And next line, Anu.
Jara karshalayadayaha.
I do not have Jara, Karshya, Laya. Laya means death. Karshya means decay or weakness. Jara means old age. And then the next one.
Shabdadi vishayai sangaha.
So Sangha means association or connection or attachment. I do not have any association with the worldly objects. The worldly objects are being connected by my sense organs. Why? Last word, tell that.
Nirindriyatayanacha.
Because I am nirindriya. Indriya means sense organs. Nirindriya nayacha means I am independent of that. Because you are independent of your car. You have an independent existence of your dream body and the dream mind. Even though you need that in the dream space and dream time, you are not dependent upon the dream body. If something happens to your dream body, nothing happens to you. Like that, exactly the same thing. If something happens to my body, worst case, nothing happens to that self, true me. You may think that this is a little bit why you are saying that. But if you can establish in this is the time you do not fear about death or anything like that. Remember that famous discussion Vivekananda had one multi-billionaire. The multi-billionaire told Vivekananda, asked Vivekananda, I have this much money. I do not need your teaching to live. He said, you may need my teaching to die peacefully. So that's what it is. Any questions? Okay. So let's go to the next verse. No, could you chant? At least we can just get introduced to that. 2 minutes. We'll chant and then we will answer couple of questions we had.
Amanastvan me dukkha.
You can chant the entire verse. Sorry.
Amanastvan me dukkha. Ragadvesha bhayadayaha. Aprano hyamanashubhraha. Ityadi shruti shasanat.
Amanaskad. So I am not the mind. I have the mind. So all the emotions, all the thoughts, all the perception happening in the mind is separate from me. So that I may have a sad thought, but I am not sad. The crystal may have blue, means the crystal may look blue, but that blueness doesn't belong to the crystal. So just like that blueness doesn't belonging to that crystal, the sadness doesn't belong to me. It is a superimposition. The problem is what? When I try to identify with that sadness, I become suffering. That is the problem. And then raga dvesha bhaya. I am not raga, I am not dvesha, attachment, aversion or fear. Then he tells, so the previous verse he negated two things. One is I am not the body, I am not the senses. So in this verse he negates I am not the mind, I am not the prana. So aprano, so he tells I am not prana, but who am I? I am the pure Shuddha. Shubhra means pure, consciousness. And this is what? Declared by the Shruti. Shruti means Upanishads. So this is declared by this particular reference is for Mundaka Upanishad. So we will see this little bit detail in the next session. But the whole idea is this verse is negating I am not mind and I am not prana. So we saw one verse, we spent some time in an understanding Nidithyasana, the repeated teaching to negate this habitual thinking or to negate this Viparita Bhavana. And once that is done, this verse started, and I said, like, these verses are Nidithyasanam. If you want long study of Nidithyasanam, you can refer Vivek Chudamani. You have 200 plus verses on Nidithyasanam. 200 plus verses on Nidithyasanam. And you have Bhagavad Gita, chapter 6, you have a few verses. And you have Mandukya Upanishad, around condensed in 11 verses. But this is brilliant as anything. So this is good enough. So in 8 or 9 verses, you get a good picture of Nidithyasanam. And this Nidithyasanam is a particular meditation technique where you are reaffirming your identity. You are trying to educate your conscious and subconscious mind. Even though the Shravanam and Mananam is going to convince your conscious and conscious mind, the subconscious and the unconscious mind still have that tendency because of that habitual thinking. And Nidithyasanam is a repeated reaffirmation to negate that wrong understanding and wrong reaction. And I said you can use this technique, FIR, like how frequently the other thoughts comes and how much is the intensity and how much is the restoration time or the recovery time. This can be used. And this in this Nidithyasanam, typically followed by a meditation, the conventional meditation. The purpose of that conventional meditation is to bring the mind into a quiet mode. And once it is quietude, you can try to think about these verses. What you are trying to look is, I am not Deha. So in that peaceful state, in that meditation, is that old age affecting me? Absolutely not. So that is one experience. And then you are trying to reaffirm, yes, the body is known to me. So it is something different from me. I am consciousness. If you have any logical question or intellectual doubt, think about the Swapna Drishtanta. Swapna Drishtanta is the best example which can clarify this thought. So the first verse, 32, negated two things. It negated the body, it negated the senses, and the verse 33 negated two things, mind and prana. This is the summary. Any questions on this topic? Otherwise, we'll pick up a couple of questions we had earlier.
Rajaji, like all these ideals, lofty, fantastic ideals, how do you practically apply them?
I answered you last week itself, right? Now it's only a theoretical idea. Logically good. But for this to get established in yourself, remember, we are looking at the darkness right now. Put the light first. What is that light? Stable mind, pure mind. For that, what do you need to do?
Upasana.
Where is the start? Last
Karma
Gita
yoga.
class, we said that is where the start is. So now you are starting. Start where? Karma yoga. Again, let me reaffirm it. If you are a beginner, start with karma yoga and upasana yoga. 5 minutes meditate means yukta ahara viharasya, yukta cheshtasya karmasu, yukta swapnavabodhasya, yogo bhavati dukkha. Make sure that your instruments stay good and then practice meditation. 5 minutes of meditation every day. It could be pranavikshanam, it could be anything. Without fail, practice that 5 minutes meditation. 5 minutes means you will get focus. And if that is difficult, at least 3 times a day, make one conscious full cycle breathing. Is that difficult?
No.
Practice it. Then practice karma yoga. Every week, make sure that you're not at least first reducing the tamasic karma. Along with the rajasic karma, you are performing the swatik karma. And remember, what is swatik karma? Panchamahaya.
Yagnas.
Panchamahaya.
Panchama.
This is the start. And then study this. Right now, it is only Shravana and Manana. This Nidithyasanam will not go beyond a stage. But when you practice this Karma Yoga and Upasana Yoga, you'll see huge progress suddenly. This is not an easy topic, okay? That's why I'm going very slowly. If you have any questions, please try to ask. So 217 verses Shankaracharya is using to explain this in Vivek Chudamani. But once you understand this, you can take any Upanishads and study without any doubt. It is very clear. At least it will be intellectually convincing to you. No problem. And without this understanding, without this framework, and without this sequencing, if you go to Upanishads, it will go all over the place. One mistake I did, at least I know, is like getting into Upanishad initially without this background. You get completely confused. So understand that this teaching methodology is extremely powerful. So this is not my teaching methodology. This teaching methodology is given to us from tradition to tradition. So they say, starting from the Lord Shiva himself, Dakshinamurti himself, they say like Sadashiva Samarambham, Shankaracharya Madhyamam, Asmadacharya Paryantam, Vande Guru Parambara. It's a lineage of teaching. So we are following the Advaita Vedanta teaching. I wanted to make sure that we are clarifying the school. We are Advaita Vedanta, Shankaracharya's commentary. That is the style we are following. Like that is the school we are following. There could be other school. There could be other teaching methodology, which could be valid. But at least I'm 100% convinced that this is a very good teaching methodology. I don't want to say that the other schools are bad or not good, but this is a very strong and powerful methodology. Any other questions? And once you understand this, you may think that, oh, every textbook is speaking the same thing. So Rohit ji, you had a question, very interesting question. So Rohit ji's question was this, very interesting. I really loved that question. So we talked about Mahavakya. Aham Brahmasmi, Tattvamasi, Prajnanam Brahma, I am Atmabodha. What is the central theme of this teaching?
I am Atma.
Yeah.
Advaita.
Yeah. I am the consciousness, I am the Atma, etc. So Rohit ji's question is, Advaita Vedanta school, if you apply, the way we are going, it is very logical, no problem. But how does the dualist and the, what do you call it, the Vishishtadvaita people explain this? Very hard. But still they try to explain. So they say, Vishishtadvaita, it is like this. So they say, Dvaitas, what they say, if you look at Madhava's commentary, how they interpret Tattvam Asi, he tells, the way they conclude is, I came out of you, I exist because of you, and finally I goes back to you. So from that perspective, I am you. I'm your child. It's like a parent-child relationship. How convincing it is up to people to believe. For me, if the logic would be complete, if you come to this Advaita vision. And if you go to a Vishishtadvaitin, the way they interpret the same truth is exactly slightly different. Because he tells, let's say that the total constitutes of 10 parts. I am part 1. I'm only a part of the whole. But I am a part of the whole. So from that perspective, there is an identity. Again, it's like a whole and a part. That is the relationship. The first one is like a parent-child. The second one is a part and a whole. And the third one is essentially you and I are the same. For me, that is the most convincing, but I don't want to say that others are wrong, but they have a point of view. Definitely they're not wrong, but it's a different point of view. And you can read even, I personally believe that in Bhagavad Gita and all this is so clear, right? I am Atma. He tells that there is only one Atma. And Upanishads, it's absolutely clear. It's only one. But they would like to see that two different things, or the part and a whole. So that is the way. It's so interesting how many teachers can look at this in different angles.
Rajesh, one follow-up question. There are realized masters also in these in these Dvaita and two, right?
Yeah.
So I wonder, like, when they realize that awareness or consciousness, how does that connect with that as a Dvaita or even Vishishta Dvaita?
I think they realize the truth exactly like the Advaita person got realized. No doubt about it. Because the experience of a realized master should be the same. But they may prefer to use that teaching, because this Advaita, how many people can follow? It's the hardest. So maybe for the common public, or if you take the science, if you go to elementary classes, yeah, you will see that the terms, you may see like the Newtonian framework is used, but we all know that it goes beyond Newtonian framework. And the teacher who teaches knows that, yeah, there is something beyond that. But to that audience, probably that would be the case. That is what I'm thinking. But again, neither we are not in the shoe of the Advaita realized master or Vishishta Dvaita realized. So we cannot comment authentically, but logically, this is what I'm feeling. Definitely Madhavacharya was a great master. So is Ramanujacharya. So the problem is these followers of these traditions, they means even like they fight each other. Those are the bad thing. And even if you look at Jesus Christ and Buddha, no doubt both of them are equally good masters. But whom did Jesus Christ spoke, and whom did with whom Buddha spoke? Buddha was speaking to learned scholars, so you can see that in his teaching. Whereas if you really look at Jesus Christ's teaching, the same teaching came from a great, equally competent master. It is very much parables and stories and like that, right? That's what I feel. But you can be realized, you can reach any path, but you wanted to know the how and the why and everything. Advaita Vedanta provides all the details. I haven't studied enough the other schools to that depth to comment more on that. I didn't study the commentary of Madhava or Ramanujacharya to that level of detail. It was not.
Your 10 parts.
But any other questions? You may not realize it, but at least an understanding that there is this possibility itself is a relief. That's what I feel that.
Then I am one of.
Okay. Any other questions, comments? Okay.
Rajeshji.
Yeah.
But verse 32 says you have to negate the body, and you have to negate the senses, right? So that state, you will get to the, like all these tapasis, the rishis, all those, they do the tapas, right? So is it that state? So what is the 33rd state? The verse is telling, and you have no intellect and you have no mind,
I-
No,
right?
I think both are referring the same thing. Both are referring to the fact what exactly is the state of the person going into these verses. He is not yet realized. He has practiced karma yoga, upasana yoga. He has some stability of the mind, purity of the mind. He heard the teaching through Shravana. He contemplated upon this and logically he is convinced. But his habitual thinking is different. And that is the state of the person who is going through verse 32 to 39. So what he is doing is, he is doing a special meditation, which is this Vedantic meditation. And in that Vedantic meditation, he is trying to tell to his conscious and subconscious mind that to negate this, what you call this habitual thinking, he is telling that what is the greatest source of fear or identity? It is body. I think that I am old, I am fat, I am white or dark. All these attributes comes from the body identity. So this verse is telling me that, yes, these are attributes of the body. There is no doubt, but you are not the body. So that Viparita Bhavana is negated through this practice. And then the 32, the second part, he's saying that I am not the sense organs. You see a lot of things, but your eyes are seeing and your eyes are capturing. So if you are attached with something, that first level of interaction is happening with your eyes and the object. And next verse he tells that, okay, the eyes capture the image. That image is represented in the mind as a vritti. You are seeing that vritti, but you are not the vritti. So amanaska, that is the word used. You are not the mind. So it is a teaching given to us to internalize and negate this Viparita Bhavana.
But Rajesh, after that, so what is it saying? You are not the mind, you're not the perception. So you don't have to worry is what the bottom line is.
No, that is your real identity. So what happens is, even then you may have a situation to be handled, right? So for example,
Right.
you see a like a fire coming. So you don't have
Right,
to worry.
yeah.
That's not the teaching, right? So you know that, okay, there is a fire, you need to act. But what is getting impacted? Suppose you see that your phone is getting burned. Don't you try to protect your phone? So you need to interact with this world using the instruments given to you, and you need to make use of the instruments perfectly fine. But the point is that the problems are belonging to the instruments. You are different from the instruments. So when you see yourself as different from this instrument, the challenge in front of you become a situation rather than a problem. Otherwise, it's a problem.
Rather than your problem.
Yeah, exactly.
Right?
Exactly.
I mean, that's so basically what we're saying is the problem belongs to the body.
Correct.
Your body is yours, but then so you take care of the problem as if it's the body's problem, but it's not your problem.
Exactly. Means you have an identity beyond that. For example, the dream body gets sick. You may have to take care of the dream body if you want to interact in the dream world and dream space, right? No doubt about it. But who has the problem? You know that. If you think about this dream, this example is very clear. The problem is with the dream body. And whether the dream body is important? Absolutely. Where it is important? In the dream world.
In the dream world, right?
Exactly like that. Is this body important? 200%.
Yeah.
Where it has relevance? In this world. But are you the body? Are you the dream body? No. You had the dream body. Are you this body? No. You have this body. That's it.
So in essence, what we are really saying, the problem is the body's problem, right?
Exactly.
Right.
Body's problem is a problem. It's a situation. You have to handle it.
Right.
But it is not me. The biggest suffering happens because I think that it is me. When the body comes to an end, I feel that I comes to an end.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
What is the greatest source of fear? Fear of death.
Fear of death. Yeah.
This is what Vedanta negates it. More teachings required, but this will give a lot of clarity.
So in essence, what we are saying is once we acknowledge that differentiation, then your actions are going to be accordingly accordingly less tarnished, right? Because otherwise they all have a lot more power in your actions.
Exactly. Your emotional pressure will be reduced extremely down. And that's why this new psychology is asking you to stay separate from the body and the mind.
Yeah.
Because you may act, right now you may react.
Yeah. Right now you may react. Yeah.
But Rajeshji, just an intellectual understanding is not sufficient. We need to internalize these teachings.
Intellectual understanding is not sufficient to reap the full benefits, but even an intellectual understanding is going to give you a little bit of space. 100%. So intellectual understanding alone is not sufficient. That's why this Nidithyasanam is done, right? The Nidithyasanam is practiced because the Shravana and Manana had already exposed the teachings to you. And what else? The logic is established. Nidithyasana is to remove that habitual thinking.
Yeah.
Good. So we are going through the most difficult topics of Vedanta. So if it is appears to be a little bit complicated, no worries. This is not very easy. We are not talking about an easy subject. So, but ask questions. That's the only way to understand this first, before going into Nidithyasanam. Because before going into Nidithyasanam, Mananam has to be completed. Excellent. Sorry to take, oh my God, it took a lot of extra time. Sorry about that. But this is good. Bonaji, why don't you chant? So let me, before I forget, if you want to control your mind in such a way that you want to practice Nidithyasanam, that is the theme of the book, Patanjali Yoga Sutra. Right? Every book you have to understand. What is the purpose of that book? To gain that mastery of the mind so that you can practice this. That is yoga. Okay. So, but again, please don't forget to do your 5 minutes meditation and your karma yoga. Please, that is what is going to take you closer to this. Bhunaji, could you please chant?
Purnamadah Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavasishyate. Om Shantis Shantis Shantihi. Harihi Om. Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi Om.
Thank you. Please post any questions, or if you need any catch up on the subject, please call me, text me and call me. Like, we need to get clarity on this before we go further. Remember, we have a goal to start Upanishad. So by that time, we should have these concepts very clear. It's not concept, these are truths. So, but we have to have that clarity. Then we can study Upanishads. Imagine you can study all the 10 Upanishads, Bhagavad Gita and Brahma Sutra. What a privilege it is. It's going to be really, really great. So
truly a privilege if we can do it.
We can do that. That's first of all, till you understand that this is a mystery, but once you understand it, it is very much natural logic. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Rajesh.
Thanks, Rajesh.
Thank you, Rajesh.